On my first day of us working together, we had a great day of work, very good, valuable insight back and forth between both of us. I was tired after a full day of work, and you're like, let's go do a workout. And I didn't have any workout clothes, and I wasn't prepared in any way for a workout. But regardless, after a long day of work, we still got our devotion to our health in. You famously did much more pull-ups than I did, even though I consider myself pretty in shape. But, that takes a lot of skill, especially as you age more, to be dedicated to your health and to stay in shape and eat healthy and whatnot. How do you think your dedication to health, both in your own life and your own company, has affected your investment strategy? How have you grown as a result of your grown health over the years?
Great question. And that reminded me of, I think they were white grip pull-ups, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
They were white grip pull-ups.
They were white grips.
I remember.
Yeah.
I actually have a video of it. We should probably post that someday.
We will. We'll add that to the clip. We'll make
great,
sure
yeah.
our friends here add that to the
awesome.
clip. That would be great. This clip will be exactly when Ryan's talking about this.
Exactly.
I'm proud of my back muscles on that one.
Yeah, of course. I remember.
Great question. I wasn't that healthy when I started. I wasn't. I always liked to play sports, hang out with friends, and we get together, play hoops. We go to the beach, and two of my really good friends are great surfers. I swim well, but I didn't have the patience to be a great surfer because they have to wait for the wave and everything. And I said, I spent all my discipline and energy in the markets already. I have to freaking watch it because when you're not disciplined, you generally lose a lot of money, right?
Exactly.
So I don't want to be disciplined while I'm hanging out.
Yeah, you're already playing the waiting game.
Yeah, I'm generally in my hobbies. I'm looking for more instant gratification. If there's 5 lines waiting at pickleball courts, I'm like, I need a better court. We're gonna find somewhere that's empty.
Sure.
But for health, I think so. Energy. So I'll answer the different. So this is sort of Buffett's look at people's 3 traits, right? Intellect, energy, and integrity.
I love this part.
Without integrity, forget the first 2.
Yeah.
Without integrity, if somebody is not a good person, and I hope I'm not wrong on that, generally especially when I decide to have a close relationship with a person, is that then the problem is, Buffett's original words were saying, then the first 2 become very dangerous. If somebody who's not a good person, who doesn't have integrity, they're intellectual and they have energy, they do a hell of a lot of harm than somebody who just, lays back and chill, right?
Sure.
With that said, I think energy might be one of my, powers. If you will. I think generally, if you sort of do things you're passionate about, and then as you are, I'm an extroverted person, so when I'm with someone else, I get energy from that too, energy from the room. But also, I think there are things. It just once you build a habit in place, it's creative. It has a cycle on its own. Mm-hmm. So when my earlier the first 6 hours of my day, generally I'm digesting news, reading research articles, thinking about our portfolios, and the next 2, and then at some point midday I'll have a decent meal. Then reasonably healthy but not too heavy. Then after work I would go. That time it's really dedicated for me to listen to music and work out, and then I kind of digest the day that way. And then have some outputs that's reasonable. I don't bench 350 or anything like that, but I just kind of go in there, do what's injury free and reasonable, and then feel good for that out. That really rejuvenates the day. And then that's why I think there's great value to how I know I kind of shitted on business school and stuff like that earlier, but there's value to how when I went to my boarding school in Connecticut and other schools, I'm sure there's structured in place. Kids go to classes in the morning, right? Have lunch, have a little few classes in the afternoon. 3 p.m. What do you do? Generally, you have to play some sort of sports, do some afternoon activity, right?
Yeah.
So at my school, boarding school in Connecticut, shout out to Suffield Academy, that we were required to play 3 varsity sports per year round. So fall sports, so 3 sports. You don't have to be varsity, but if you get a huge letter if you play 3 varsity sports.
Sure.
But you have to pick a sport. You can be a JV team, you can be any team you want. Fall, winter, spring. Fall, winter, spring. You have to rotate. I think I did fall soccer / football, winter basketball, of course, and summer and the spring track and field. So, and the hardest one was track and field. But track and field actually laid the ground for all the other ones. So just the habit of doing that, I think has a cycle on its own, and it's become more and more important. And last thing I would say is probably sleep. Sleep is important. Long term, you can get away with 6 hours or something, one night, especially early on. I think I told you, 20 to 23, sometimes I can stay up all night and no problem next day and stuff. But generally later on in life, I think optimizing how to, Brian Johnson has great content on this. Again, this is not a health podcast, but generally we will dive into a lot of. This is a general podcast. We'll have a lot of things that's in there. Brian Johnson has content on this, obviously with Blueprint. Andrew Huberman has great content on this. That how do you set up your day with a good night of sleep, and the next day how to function better, and that's very important from a physical standpoint. And lastly, I would say spiritually, it's if you have a purpose, then everything you do becomes much more. You do it with more of an it factor.
Interesting. Cool.
If there's a purpose that, and it goes with the identity. For example, that workout example, that our first day, generally, and this is again, also a lot of times people think certain traits are bad. They are not necessarily bad. Vanity, ego, certain these things might not be too bad in this way. I generally think I'm someone who is in shape all the time. So if my friends or people who know me know, oh, Robert's out of shape, then he's like in like mental health crisis. Like I gotta go fly. This hasn't happened, hope not. I gotta go fly to see if something's going on.
Yeah.
But some people assume that's normality. But then this builds into the identity part, right? So you're a family person. To you, if your brother calls you, like if you, it's just who you are. You don't think if, yes, but, ifs.
Sure.
For some people, they might be estranged for reasons that sometimes is not their fault. Like, but it's just not a part of who they are. But for me, that's always been sort of who I am and who I want to continue to be. So that makes sense. Just like public speaking, things like that is generally who I want to be. So I think that piece, that identity, I wouldn't let the day go by without generally having doing something active. And it's really, people talk about this being, now it's a trend and things like that. But for me, it's just generally being something like, I love doing it. If I would pay, I tell my friends this all the time, I will pay I would love to get paid when I work out, but unfortunately, that's not the case. We would love to get paid when we play pickleball, right, if we're professional players. Right?
Yeah.
So I think building through the habit, and to conclude this one is you are what you repeatedly do. So we're not what we say we would do. We're not what we hear what we do. We are what we actually repeatedly do. So when we repeatedly do something, it becomes a habit and it can become a great thing.